All right, ladies and gentlemen, so I came across this article from the legendary Paul Tassi, the guy who ends up coping and seething anytime something that's, not woke ends up being massively successful. The guy just doesn't seem to understand the actual conversation that is happening, right? Like, he has his own point of view, his own perception about what he thinks the conversation is on our particular side. And then he tries to gaslight his readers and try to make them seem like we're the ones that are completely unreasonable. Anyway, the point is, he has written a new article and I don't really read Paul Tassi articles very often. I think the last one I read was fucking months ago. But this one says, The Woke War, Why the Right Believes It's Dominated Gaming and TV in 2024. Now, there's people out there that say Paul Tassi tries to be the middle ground guy, whatever. This doesn't exactly look like the middle ground guy to me.
So he's an idiot.
Yeah.
If you believe that everybody who is against what's happening right now in video games, movies, and TV shows, if you think that they are all right-wing, then that tells me exactly where you stand, because I can prove to you that there are a bunch of people, not only on my particular side, but people that I have seen that I don't even communicate with, but have openly been honest about their political beliefs. There are a bunch of people that are not right-wing, that are heavily against what's happening in gaming right now. You don't have to be right-wing to be against what these psychopaths are doing with video games and how they're fucking it up all for their DEI and ESG nonsense. So let's get into this article, guys, from Forbes. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. So it says, as someone who is painfully plugged into online discourse, to the point where I may soon just need to go live in an Arctic cabin somewhere, I have borne witness to a narrative this year in the media landscape, namely across movies and TV, where right-wing media consumers and influencers believe they have defeated woke games and shows and those who support them. While claiming wins of their own, it feels like there's a new one that comes up every month, and I figured it was time to break down the perception of what's really going on here and the reality of what's happening. This entire thing sounds like the male version of Alyssa Mercante, Sweet Baby Inc. doesn't do what you think they do. This is literally what it sounds like. But anyway, let's break down this first paragraph really quick. So again, right-wing media, we're not all right-wing. You keep using this term, and it's not factually correct, which again, you as a journalist is trying to dispel, the fake stories and be in reality and all this stuff. You keep using this fucking narrative that is not true. Oh, it's right-wing media, it's right-wing consumers, and shut the fuck up. You are literally full of shit. And you know you're full of shit, but you continue to put this out anyway, knowing or thinking that none of your readers are going to go against what you say. Then you say right-wing influencers. Again, it's a fucking lie. And nobody, literally nobody that I know of anyway, if you know anybody that has said this, please let me know. Nobody has believed that they defeated woke games, right? That's an absolute statement, and nobody believes that. I have never once said that we have defeated woke games, because I don't think that's ever going to happen, truthfully. I think that we can make them take losses, and I think we can make them pivot and shift and maybe go back to trying to focus on creativity and the actual game itself. But we didn't actually defeat wokeness, right? At the very least, what they're doing is rebranding right now. That's what they're trying to do. So again, you're trying to make it seem like people say that we defeated woke games, but that's not true. And then it says success of anti-woke things are claimed at scalps, whether that was actually the intent of that work or not. Failures of woke things are purely because they're woke, not any other reason. Nobody ever said that. Ignoring any and all fact, nobody ever said that. I have said multiple times. You know what? Let's just go into the games. This happens every time, and it's time to add them all up here and show what's really going on. Prepare the cope and seethe, as they say. Well, you are definitely coping and seething, without a doubt. So let's start with Suicide Squad, my favorite one. One of my favorite ones. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. According to Paul Tassi, and again, this is Paul Tassi's opinion, right? This is what his perception of other people's perceptions are. That's the hilarious thing about all this, because he doesn't actually understand the conversation that's coming from the particular side of, our side. He does not understand it. So he's trying to give you his perception of what he deems our perception is. So it says this was woke version of the Arkham universe, in which characters like Harley Quinn were more conservatively dressed than previously, and were things like pride flags hanging out in base headquarters. A consulting agency named Sweet Baby Inc. was used in development of the game to advise on making things overly inclusive. Now, again, this was true. This part right here is true, and you know it's true because they say it's true, right? Sweet Baby Inc. tells you what they do. They tell you their strategies. They tell you exactly what their entire purpose is. So to sit there and tell you, the reader, that Sweet Baby Inc. didn't, well, again, let's just read what he says. The reality, Suicide Squad failed mightily because it was a live service game after Rocksteady had made its entire fan base devoted to its single-player superhero offerings, and not a particularly good one at that. It was a goofy concept, giving all Task Force X members the same guns, few differences in powers, and aborting a storyline halfway through to do a live service concept which featured a dozen Brainiac copies, all based on an IP with one critically savage movie and one box office failure in the DCEU. Supposedly, woke critics scored the game a 60, one of the lowest major releases of the year. So again, his reality is not far off, but his reality is lies through omission, right? Because you are not telling the truth about everything. You only want to tell the truth about some of the stuff. You don't want to tell the truth about all the stuff. So I personally have always said that the wokeness in Suicide Squad was a very small factor in the overall destruction of this game, right? The biggest issue with this game, like Paul Tassi said, was that Suicide Squad was built off of the backs of the single-player IP known as the Arkham games. They were much more successful, that people actually want, and it got turned into a live service garbage fiasco based off characters that nobody gives a fuck about. Then, what they did do was they took those characters and they wokeified them, unfortunately. That's just the fucking truth. So the people who actually got into the game, who could play the game, even though the game was released with buggy servers, right? Major game-breaking bugs. They had to reset the leaderboards, right? All this shit that was happening, they released this game and still decided to make a storyline that just completely ruined any fan of the DC universe. They didn't want to play. They didn't want to continue playing after they realized what they did to Batman. So you can say that wokeness wasn't a thing, but it was. Even though it was a small thing, by you not mentioning it, it's lies through omission, and you're just doing another listener content. Then we have Concord, The Perception, a hero shooter that failed because its heroes were not attractive enough, and they were virtue signaling by putting pronouns in their select screens. Again, that is only part of the conversation. Your perception over the entire conversation of our side is, and you're like a typical leftist conversation, which again, I don't know if you're a leftist, I don't know if you're a centrist, but you're acting like a fucking leftist right now. You are out there trying to take a nuanced conversation, simplify it so that it can fit your narrative of, the chuds think they did this. That's not how that works. We have constantly talked many different avenues of what made Concord fail. Is the wokeness part of it? Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. And by you continuing to ignore it, you're only going to continue to bastardize the fucking gaming industry and watch as these games burn, right? You're going to continue to do that. But anyway, that is not our perception at all. This is Paul Tassi's perception of our perception. Then it says reality. Concord started development right after Overwatch launch in 2016 and arrived to the shooter landscape dated with an ill-conceived $40 price tag in a free-to-play landscape and failing to meaningfully stand out from its competition. Its character designs were poor, not for hotness reasons, but because of lacking aesthetic that other games with plenty of similarly sized and aged characters had done much better. Supposedly, Rogue critics scored the game at 65, lower than all its multiplayer rivals. Again, guys, everything Paul Tassi just said is stuff that I have said in every single one of my Concord videos. So it proves that if he thinks that we're all the same, that he is either lying or being disingenuous. I have literally said that the biggest death note for this game has been the $40 entry fee. There is no fucking reason why this game should have a $40 entry fee in a free-to-play competition market. But it doesn't help that when you present your game and you market your game and you showcase it to try to get potential players, when the game's about to release, you decide to market it with wokeness. You decide to market it with characters that are not only fucking ugly, unoriginal, but they're also pronoun filled. And it's very clear that you're doing the modern day nonsense. So everybody was turned off, leftist, right, and center. And you know it's true because the numbers are 67 right now. Now we got the Acolyte, everybody's favorite, Perception. The woke series featured essentially no white males and focused on a cult of space witches, at least a pair of which were lesbians. The showrunner is a lesbian and her wife is in the show. The series broke canon and disrespected true Star Wars fans. This cancellation was even celebrated by Elon Musk, who declares the series went woke and went broke, as is the internal mantra of this group. Now here's his reality. The show cost $180 million to make. It was the least watched Star Wars show, which is not a surprise given it was trying to tell a story with wholly original characters and no connections to the Skywalker era. Every time people said it broke canon, upon closer inspection, it did not in fact break canon, and critics either misunderstood the source material or were claiming Legends were still canon. Cost of viewership was the reason it was canceled. If you fucking think that The Acolyte was not a woke show, my guy, I don't think you could be saved. I really don't. That's being extremely disingenuous if you really think that The Acolyte was not a woke fucking show. Again, anybody can see the writing on the fucking wall when they were marketing this TV show, and they were like, yes, Queen, yes, this is gonna be the gayest Star Wars ever. Yes, cannot wait. If you really think that, then your reality is clearly fucking twisted to fit your worldview. And that's okay. I totally get it. I would rather you just say that, but it's clear that you don't actually want to have a conversation because, again, you're misrepresenting what people actually have said. Sure, people have said all this stuff, but this is not the entire conversation that's at play from this particular side of the aisle. We have said so many things that don't have anything to do with this, like bad writing, bad storytelling, bad overall presentation of the actual TV show, the costume, everything about it. The fucking the space witch scene where it's like the power one, the power two, it was cringe. It was fucking cringe, and you're trying to sit there and be like, oh, you just don't like it because it's black women, it's lesbians. Like, come on, bro. You sound like a real typical leftist. So again, guys, this is Paul Tassi's perception of our perception, and it's very clear that all he did was take what we have been saying, try to translate it into a leftist point of view, and then try to claim moral superiority by being this intelligent human being within the species that allows him to see reality when nobody else supposedly can. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.